Hola amigos, muy buenos días, muy buenos días. Today we're going to be lecturing Chapter 7, Section 1. This is the section on indirect object pronouns. You might be wondering why I have the words direct object pronouns written on the board. We're going to do a quick review. Remember, we ended last semester reviewing the direct object pronouns, so if you need to go back to the last section of Chapter 6 to review, remember our direct object pronouns were me, te, lo, and la, masculine singular, feminine singular, nos, and then the masculine plural and the feminine plural, los and las. And you remember how to manipulate those direct object pronouns. If you remember, there were specific rules about object, pronoun, placement. Okay? And the first rule, if you remember, rule number 1 is the direct object pronoun. The direct object pronoun must go before the conjugated verb. Okay? Don't just say before the verb. It's got to go before the conjugated verb. Okay? That was the rule. I want you to remember that rule. We're going to come back to it in a minute. So placing these direct object pronouns, they would go before the conjugated verb. Section 1 of Chapter 7, today we're going to be talking about indirect object pronouns. Indirect object pronouns. And if you want to follow along in your books, creo que, bueno, es la página 202. En la página 202, page 202, if you look at the indirect object pronouns, look, what are they? Me, te, looking a little bit familiar, le, nos, and les. They look awfully familiar, don't they? You probably recognize me and te and nos as being the exact same as the direct object pronouns. The only real difference is down here, third person singular, third person plural. It's not lo and la, but rather le for the third person singular. It's not los and las, but rather les for the third person plural. You see? Otherwise, they're exactly the same. They're exactly the same. Let me get some of this stuff out of the way. Okay? So again, they're exactly the same. These indirect object pronouns as compared to direct object pronouns. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about how we manipulate them. I'm going to try to scoot these out of the way a little bit here. Okay, so if I have a sentence that says something like Juan da el libro. Juan da el libro. Juan gives the book. Juan gives the book. Let's say he gives the book to me. Juan da el libro a mí. Now this is grammar we haven't studied yet. But the indirect object of a sentence answers the question to whom or for whom, right? Juan gives the book to me. To whom does Juan give the book? Gives it to me. So I'm the indirect object right there. Gives it to me. Well, do you see an indirect object pronoun up here anywhere that I could use in place of me, the indirect object? Anything? Okay, if you said me, that's a correct guess. Again, me is me. Me is not you. Me is not him or her. Me is not them. Me is not us. Me is me, right? Juan gives the book to me. So I'm going to use that indirect object pronoun to replace my indirect object. Okay? And so now, the question is, where do I put this? Where do I put this indirect object pronoun? Well, do you remember rule number 1? Object pronoun placement. The direct object pronoun goes before the conjugated verb. Guess what? It's the same exact rule for indirect object pronouns. Doesn't matter what kind of object pronoun it is. Direct object, indirect object, whatever. It goes before the conjugated verb. So back to our sentence. Do you see a conjugated verb anywhere? Right here. Who gives? Juan gives the book. So that means my indirect object pronoun has to go right before the conjugated verb. Okay? And the sentence reads, Juan me da el libro. Juan me da el libro. And again, literally translated, Juan me, he gives the book. Who talks like that in English? Nobody. But in Spanish, everybody does. So don't worry that word order between the two languages, English and Spanish, doesn't line up. Don't worry. It's not supposed to. This is not a literal word order translation from one language to the next regarding this concept. It's not going to line up all nicely and neatly. Just remember, rule number one, object pronouns. In this case, we learned already direct object pronouns, but now we're focusing on indirect object pronouns. Indirect object pronouns must go before the conjugated verb, and that's what we've done. Juan me da el libro. Juan gives me the book. Okay? Now, what if I wanted to swap this out? What if I wanted to put in te? Juan te da el libro. Now, who does Juan give the book to? Gives it to you, right? That makes sense, right? What if I wanted to say Juan nos da el libro? Now, who is Juan giving the book to? He's giving it to us, you see? So we can manipulate these indirect object pronouns similarly to the way we manipulated direct object pronouns. Me, you, him or her, or the formal you, usted, us, and they or them, or you all, right? So again, just quickly, as a review, Juan me da el libro. Who does Juan give the book to? To me. Juan te da el libro. Now, who does Juan give the book to? Gives it to you. Juan nos da el libro. Now, who does Juan give the book to? Gives it to us. Right? But what if I use this le? Juan le da el libro. Now, to whom does Juan give the book? Who does the le represent? Remember, it could be him, could be her, could be usted. We don't know. So in the case of maybe using the le, could be one of any three people. So we might need to clarify. If that's the case, we can clarify by using the subject pronouns that we've come to know and love all these months, all these semesters, right? And I can clarify, Juan le da el libro a él. Juan le da el libro a él. Juan gives the book. Now who is the le? A él, to him. Gives it to him, right? Or if I wanted to say, Juan da el libro a ella. Now who does the le represent? Represents her. He gives the book to her. Juan le da el libro a ella. Or if I wanted to say, a usted. Now who is the le? The le is usted, you. Juan le da el libro a usted. Juan gives you formal the book. You see how that works? Okay. Again, no clarification needed. Watch. No clarification needed with me. That's me. Me is me, right? No clarification needed with te. That's you. You is you, right? No clarification needed with nos. That's us. Us is us. We is we, right? Yeah. However, because le can be him, her, or usted, I might need to clarify. Likewise, les could be they masculine, they feminine, or you all. Juan les da el libro. I might need to clarify. A ellos. Now who does he give the book to? Gives it to them. A ellos. Or if I were to say Juan da el libro, whoops. Juan da el libro a ellas. Now who does he give the, Juan les da el libro a ellas. Now who does he give the book to? To them, feminine, right? Or what if I wanted to say, Juan les da el libro a ustedes. Now who does he give the book to? The les represents ustedes, you all, you see? So in the case of le and les, first person singular, first person plural, we might need to clarify, okay, who they are. Again, look at the board. Me is me. Me is me. No clarification necessary. Me is me, right? Te, that's the informal you. You is you. No clarification necessary. We know who it is. Nos, that's us. No clarification necessary. Us is us. We know who we are, right? Us, right? But because le could be him, her, or the formal usted, because les can be they masculine, they feminine, or the you all, plural, ustedes, we might need to clarify. And we can do that by simply using the subject pronouns, él, ella, usted, ustedes, whatever the case may be. Okay? All right. So, again, nothing too terribly new here as far as the practice is concerned. We're now talking about indirect object pronouns, but we've spoken about them the same way we spoke about direct object pronouns. And so far the rules are the same. Just like direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns must go before the conjugated verb. If your sentence has a conjugated verb in it, your indirect object pronoun must go before that conjugated verb. Let's try another sentence just to see how we do. Okay? How about María escribe una carta. María escribe una carta. María writes a letter. Well, to whom does she write the letter? Let's say María escribe una carta. I'm going to scoot this over just a little bit. María escribe una carta a mí. She's writing a letter to me. Okay? I am the indirect object of this sentence. To whom is she writing a letter? To me, right? Do you see an indirect object pronoun up here anywhere that I could use in place of me? Yeah, right here, me. Me is me. Me is me, right? She writes a letter to me. Well, I can use me as my pronoun, indirect object pronoun. Okay? Now the question is, where does the me go? Where does it go in my sentence? What's the rule? Rule number one, what's the rule? Object pronouns must go before the conjugated verb. Do you see a conjugated verb up here anywhere? Escribe. María escribe. Who writes? Maria writes. So therefore I'm going to place my pronoun before the conjugated verb. It's going to go right there. María me escribe una carta. Literally, Maria, me, she writes a letter. Who talks like that? In English, nobody. But in Spanish, everybody does. Remember, these are not going to line up between languages nicely and neatly. That's okay. The word order is different. It's supposed to be. Just remember rule number one, object pronouns, in this case indirect object pronouns, go before the conjugated verb. That's all. Okay? And again, it's very easy to know who we're talking about here. What if I replace the me with te? María te escribe una carta. Now to whom is she writing a letter? To you, right? Or María nos escribe una carta. Now to whom is she writing the letter? To us, you see. What if I say María le escribe una carta? Now to whom is she writing the letter? Well, remember, le could be one of any three people. Could be him, could be her, could be you, formal, usted. So if I need to clarify, María le escribe una carta a él. Now who's the le? Him. She writes a letter to him. Or if I were to say, María escribe una carta a ella. Now who's the le? María le escribe una carta a ella. Now who's the le? Her. We've clarified. Her. Or if I were to say, María le escribe una carta a usted. Now who's the le? Usted, the formal you. We've clarified. Okay? So we can clarify as necessary. And it may be necessary. Again, no clarification needed here. Me is me. No clarification needed here. You is you. No clarification needed here. Us is us. Only need to clarify third person singular, third person plural, because these could be one of any, well, together, combined, any one of any 6 different people, right? So let's try it with the les. María les escribe una carta. Let's see what that looks like. María les escribe una carta. I'm just going to move this out of the way and erase it. Okay? María les escribe una carta. To whom is she writing a letter? Well, it could be one of any 3 different people. I might need to clarify. María les escribe una carta a ellos. Now, to whom is she writing the letter? to them, we've clarified. Or María, I guess I could have. María les escribe una carta a ellas. Now to whom is she writing the letter? To them, feminine, right? Ellas, them, feminine. Or María les escribe una carta a ustedes. Now to whom is she writing the letter? To you all. Who's the les? You all. We can clarify if necessary. All right, so far so good? Okay. What's rule number 1 then as far as these indirect object pronouns are concerned? What's rule number 1? They go where? Before the conjugated verb. And make sure you say, don't just say before the verb, before the conjugated verb. Okay? But what if your sentence has an unconjugated verb? You remember the second rule? We have a choice. What's rule number 2? Think back to chapters, how we finished chapter 6. Rule number 2 is the direct object pronoun or the indirect object pronoun. Again, both. This rule applies to both. Okay, can go. Rule number 1, either before the conjugated verb, or rule number 2, smashed on the end. Smashed on the end of an unconjugated verb. Unconjugated verb. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Smashed on the end of an unconjugated verb. Let's go back to our sentence here. What was Juan doing? Juan, he was giving a book. All right, so let's say Juan. I'm going to need a little bit of room. So I'm going to scooch these up a little bit. Okay. So let's say Juan quiere dar un libro. Now it's not so much he gives a book, but he wants to give a book. Juan quiere dar un libro. He wants to give a book. And let's say he wants to give that book to me. A mí. Okay, so I'm the indirect object. Again, do you see a pronoun up here that I could use in place of a mí? Good, me, right there, yeah. Because me is me. Huh? Me is not you. Me is not him or her. Me is not us. Me is not them. Me is me. So I'm going to use me as my indirect object pronoun for me. I can get rid of that. Okay. Now the question is, where do I put it? Where does this go? Where does this go? Well, remember rule number 1. What was rule number 1? It's got to go where? Before the conjugated verb. Do you see a conjugated verb anywhere up here in our sentence? The verb querer has been conjugated. Who wants? Juan wants. Juan quiere dar un libro. Juan wants to give a book. He wants to give it to me. So I place it before the conjugated verb. Whoops. Sorry. Get rid of that. So I place it before the conjugated verb, right there. Juan me quiere dar un libro. Juan me quiere dar un libro. Or, what was option number 2 if I have it? Or rule number 2 if I have the option? I can smash it on the end of an unconjugated verb. Do you see an unconjugated verb here anywhere? Right there, the verb dar has not been conjugated. So if I want to, I can smash it on the end. Let me scoot these. Hold on, give me just a second. I'm going to scoot these words over a little bit. Okay. I can smash it on the end of an unconjugated verb. Juan quiere darme un libro. Juan quiere darme un libro. Now this word order matches a little bit more closely. Translated literally, Juan wants to give me a book. That might be how we would say it in English. So smashing on the end of an unconjugated verb more closely matches with the word order between the two languages. But remember, you only get to smash it on the end of the unconjugated verb if you have that option. If your verb only has one sentence, if your sentence only has one verb in it, if your sentence only has one verb in it, that verb must be conjugated, right? And the choice is made for you. If the verb is conjugated, rule number 1, it's got to go before the conjugated verb. But if your sentence has more than one verb in it, it could be that not all verbs are conjugated, right? And you may have the option of smashing it on the end of an unconjugated verb. And if that's the case, There you go, smashed right there on the end. Juan quiere darme un libro. And again, depending on to whom he's giving the book, we can manipulate that. What if I replaced me with te? Juan quiere darte un libro. Now to whom does he want to give the book? To you. Or Juan quiere darnos un libro. Now to whom does he want to give the book? He wants to give it to us. You see? I'm going to rewrite that. It came apart on me, so I'm going to rewrite it. Nos. Again, what if I use the le? Juan quiere darle un libro. Now, to whom does he want to give the book? Well, again, could be him, could be her, could be you, usted. We can clarify as necessary, and we can do that at the end, just like before, even though we're smashing the object pronoun on the end of an unconjugated verb. We can still clarify the same way, right? Or what if I replace it with les? Sorry. Juan quiere darles un libro. Now to whom does he want to give the book? Well, he wants to give it either to them, masculine, them, feminine, or you all. We can clarify as necessary at the end. Even though we're smashing the object pronoun on the end of an unconjugated verb, we can still clarify in the same way if we need to. But here we have the option. Again, what's rule number 1? Object pronoun has to go before the conjugated verb, or if we have the option, and we've been practicing that option, smash it on the end of an unconjugated verb. Okay? Smash it on the end of an unconjugated verb. Let's practice that one more time. What was Maria doing? Maria, we had Juan giving us a book. Oh, Maria was writing a letter. So what if we wanted to say Maria necesita escribir una carta. Now it's not so much she writes a letter, but she needs to write a letter. María necesita escribir una carta. She needs to write a letter. And let's say she needs to write a letter to me. A mí. Okay? Again, do you see an indirect object pronoun I could use up here in place of a mí? Yeah, me. Me. Me is me, right? Me is not you. Me is not him or her. Me is not us. Me is not them. Me is me. Okay? Me. Now the question is, where do I put it? Remember, what's rule number 1? It's got to go where? Before the conjugated verb. Do you see a conjugated verb up here anywhere? Right there. So if I wanted to, I could stick it right there before the conjugated verb. Juan me necesita escribir, sorry, not Juan, María. María me necesita escribir una carta. Right? Or, if I have the option, I can smash it on the end of an unconjugated verb. Do you see an unconjugated verb here anywhere? Right there. So if I had the option, and here it appears that I do, I can smash it on the end. Oops. Let me move these words here. I can smash it on the end of an unconjugated verb. I can smash it on the end of an unconjugated verb because I have that option. María necesita escribirme una carta. And again, smashed on the end of an unconjugated verb more closely reflects English word order. María needs to write me a letter. You see? María necesita escribirme una carta. And again, I can swap these out. If I were to swap out the me with the te, now to whom is she writing a letter? María necesita escribirte una carta. She's writing a letter to you, or needs to write a letter to you. María necesita escribirnos una carta. Maria needs to write us a letter, right? What if I swap out the nos for le? María necesita escribirle una carta. Now to whom does she need to write a letter? Well, again, the le could be him, could be her, could be you, usted, and we can clarify at the end as necessary, right? But otherwise, that's how we would manipulate the le. Or if I wanted to swap the le out for les, María necesita escribirles una carta. Now to whom does she need to write a letter? Well, again, the les could be you all, ustedes, could be them, or they, them masculine, they, them feminine, ellos, ellas, and we can clarify as necessary. But otherwise, we can smash these object pronouns on the end of an unconjugated verb if we have that option. And here it appears that we do, okay? One more thing. Not only can we smash these indirect object pronouns on the end of an unconjugated verb, we can also smash them on the end of a gerund. Remember what a gerund is? Gerund would be the ing equivalent, like work becomes working, camp becomes camping, speak becomes speaking, write becomes writing, right? The ing equivalents, the ing versions, okay? And remember, we remember how to create gerunds, right? AR verbs, we drop the AR and replace it with ANDO, right? So hablar becomes hablando, comprar becomes comprando, trabajar becomes trabajando, estudiar becomes estudiando. We could do this all day, right? And then ER-IR verbs, okay? We drop the ER-IR and replace it with IENDO, yendo. So escribir becomes escribiendo, comer becomes comiendo, vivir becomes viviendo, recibir becomes recibiendo. Again, we could do this all day. Now there are some irregulars here to be mindful of, okay? And review those if you need. But otherwise, that's how we create the gerunds, the ing equivalents. Okay? So, again, what's the rule for object pronoun placement? They either go before the conjugated verb or smashed on the end of an unconjugated verb. We've practiced those. We can also smash them on the end of a gerund. Watch what happens, however, when we smash them on the end of a gerund. Let's go back to our sentences up here. Let's see. I'm going to erase this. Let's go back to Juan. What was Juan doing? He was given a book. So let's say Juan está dando un libro. Okay, now it's not so much he gives a book or he wants to give a book, but that he is giving, right? The verb dar, to give, we've created the gerund by dropping the AR, replacing it with ANDO, dando, giving. Juan está dando. Juan is giving a book, okay? And he's giving a book to, let's say he's giving a book to me. What is my indirect object pronoun up here for me? Do you see one up here? Yeah, me, right? Me. Okay, so now it becomes a question, where do I put it? Well, rule number one, I can put it before the conjugated verb. This verb right here is conjugated, está. So if I wanted, I could place it before the conjugated verb. Juan me está dando un libro. Or I can smash it on the end of an unconjugated verb. No unconjugated verb here. But I can also smash it on the end of a gerund. Look what happens, however, when I smash it on the end of a gerund. Okay? Juan está dándome. Juan está dándome un libro. Because I'm adding a syllable onto a gerund, I must also add a written accent mark. Listen to what syllable is stressed. Juan está dándome un libro. Dándome un libro. See? That's my written accent mark that I have to add. I'm exaggerating it. Juan está dándome un libro. So if I'm going to smash these object pronouns on the end of a gerund, remember I'm adding a syllable, I must also add a written accent mark. And that written accent mark goes where it would normally sound like it would go anyway. Dando. That A is being stressed. Dándome. It's that same A that's being stressed. Okay? And again, I can swap these out. If I were to say, Juan está dándote un libro. Now to whom is he giving the book? Giving it to you, right? Juan está dándonos un libro. Now to whom is he giving the book? Giving it to us. So I can manipulate these object pronouns the same way. Juan está dándole un libro. He's now, to whom is he given the book? Well, remember, the le could be him, her, or you, usted. So if necessary, we can clarify. But we can still smash him on the end. And because we're smashing on the end, we're adding a syllable. We must also add a written accent mark. Okay? Juan está dándoles un libro. Who's the les? Again, it could be them. masculine, them, feminine, you all, ustedes, and we can clarify it if necessary. But otherwise, we can still smash those on the end, just like before, okay? All right, so hopefully this has helped you understand a little bit about indirect object pronouns. If you think about it, same exact rules as the direct object pronouns, right? Remember, direct object pronouns had to go before the conjugated verb or smashed on the end of an unconjugated verb or a gerund. Same exact rule for indirect object pronouns, okay? They have to go before the conjugated verb, or if you have the option, smashed on the end of an unconjugated verb or a gerund. Now, we ended last semester learning direct object pronouns, how to master those. You're experts. We've now begun this semester by learning how to mastering indirect object pronouns. Okay, now you're experts in that. Eventually, we're going to learn how to manage these two pronouns, direct and indirect object pronouns, together. The rules are going to be the same. We're just going to modify them just a touch. But anyway, that'll come another day, another lesson another day. So for now, remember these rules for object pronoun placement. We learned them for direct object pronouns. Now we're applying the same rules for indirect object pronouns. Okay? And you can manipulate them accordingly. Okay? These are, again, our indirect object pronouns. Okay? Let me get rid of some of this extra stuff. All right? So that will help you for this lesson. Okay? All right, I'm going to cut it off here. I'm going to be posting more lecture videos. Make sure you're checking in throughout the week, double checking with the homework assignment. Don't worry about doing more than you're capable. So if you get to some homework assignments that you don't recognize, then it's probably because you haven't seen the lecture video yet. So make sure you go back and check out the video, not just the lecture video, but any supplementary videos that we had. Okay? All right, so that's all for now. Muchísimas gracias. Muchísimas gracias. Hasta la próxima. Chao.